Are you starting a web design business in 2025? Trust me, you don't want to make the same mistakes that I did. Here are 5 things that I would do differently if I were starting over today. The first thing that I would do is not worry so much about coding. Now, I know this is probably going to get me a lot of flack, but hear me out in this. Is coding helpful? Absolutely. But as platforms get better and better, and as AI gets more intuitive about helping you code whatever it is that you are wanting to code, it's not going to be as necessary of a skill in order to build a thriving web design business. I've built entire apps just through ChatGPT alone. Now, do I have some background knowledge in web development? Absolutely, I do. And that is helpful, but it's no longer a requirement to know how to do this stuff from scratch. In other words, you need to know the basics, but you don't need to know everything there is. You don't need to be a full stack developer. If you've got some basics down, if you know HTML, CSS, a little bit of JavaScript, if you can navigate through GitHub a little bit, you're going to basically know everything that you need to know in order to do just about everything that you would want to do. So if I were starting over again in 2025, I wouldn't put so much emphasis on learning to code. The second thing I'd do differently in 2025 is I'd focus more on my processes right out of the gate. The thing that I've seen separate web designers who are able to charge a lot of money for a website and web designers that aren't able to charge that much is not the level of skill that they have or even the quality of the output that they're handing off to their clients. What separates them is the process or the journey that they're taking their clients through from start to finish. So they have everything outlined. They're communicating really well with their clients. They've got systems, they've got workflows that are easy for them to manage. And to be honest, this is something I struggle with quite a bit. I'm much more of a shoot from the hip, let's just all kind of wing it kind of person, but that doesn't really work well with clients. You need to have some type of system that you're able to really help them step through and just show them that you know what you're doing. And so if I were starting over again, I would definitely focus more on learning this key skill. Now, this doesn't seem like a super necessary skill when it comes to being a web designer. You would think that you need to focus more on the skill of actually designing something or branding or maybe a little bit of development or whatever. But I'm telling you, if you want to stand out as a web developer, you've got to have systems in place. You can do better than 99% of your competition out there if you're just good at responding to emails. Now, it's easy to respond to emails when you don't have a lot of them coming into your inbox. But when your inbox starts getting flooded with, tens, 20s, hundreds of emails from potential or current clients every single day, it's going to make it more difficult to manage. So if you've got those systems all set up, it's going to keep you from mishandling projects and making a bad name for yourself. So if I was starting over again, I would definitely focus more on my processes from the get-go. The third thing that I do differently in 2025, if I was building a web design business, is I would focus on building my own web design taste. What do I mean by that? As web designers, we have to have a sense of what good design is and what bad design is. And this is what I like to call your taste. It's similar to if you're a chef working in a kitchen, you've got to have a good taste. You've got to be able to taste things and go, that's good or that's bad. How do you do that? Well, over time, you taste a lot of food. You think about it critically. You try to notice hints of different subtleties of different flavors here and there. It reminds me of when I was working at Starbucks and they would have us go through these tastings of different coffees. And they would give us a list of all the things to describe the coffee that we were tasting. And some of it was like woody, some of it was dirty, citrusy, like all of these other types of adverbs that we used or adjectives that we used to describe a single sip of coffee. And when I first got started, it was like, this just tastes like coffee. I don't know what you're talking about. But as time went on, I was able to notice little bitty hints and subtleties of things here and there. You need to start start being able to do that with your own web design and other people's web design as well. And in order to do that, you've got to stay really diligent about finding web design inspiration on a daily basis. So this is almost like if you're working to become a basketball player, this is you shooting free throws every single day for a specific amount of time, right? You're just looking up good web design. You're analyzing it. You're asking yourself, what's good about this? What's bad about this? What would I do differently? What's something that I would have never thought to do, but they did, right? Like you're building your taste, because more than anything, your taste as a web designer is going to be what sets you apart, not even necessarily the implementation of the design itself. Because after a while, you can actually hire people to implement the designs that you're working on, but nobody can replace the taste that you've developed from your own preferences and your own lived experience. So if I were starting over, I would definitely focus more on my taste. Number 4, I would focus on building real world relationships. Now, the world is online, right? Most of your clients are going to be gotten through some type of online means, whether that's platforms like Upwork or email, or somebody finds you through organic traffic. But nothing beats having an actual relationship that is cultivated through face-to-face time. And so my encouragement to you is, if you're starting this year, or even if you've been doing this for a while, make sure that you're developing those personal relationships, because those relationships can carry you through a lot of seasons. My relationships were a huge factor in me being able to grow my business. My first few clients came through friends who were web designers themselves, who needed some help, also people who had businesses. So you need to constantly be trying to figure out how to nurture new and your current relationships, because you never know what of those relationships might turn into a business transaction. Now, this isn't to say that you're looking for all relationships to have some type of business purpose. Like that's not the goal in this. In fact, people will quickly learn that you're just in this to get something from them if that's how you react or how you treat them. No, you need to first look at it as if you're giving something away. You're being generous with your time. You're going to have folks who are saying, hey, I need help with my website. How would you do this thing? And rather than saying, cool, let's set up a $100 consultation, you would say, hey, here's what I would do. And you send them emails and you go back and forth. You never know what's going to come through a relationship of a relationship of a relationship that might end up being some really profitable business transaction. And so make sure that you're not just doing it for the money. You don't just look at people and see dollar signs, but don't be unintentional about how you're making connections. I love what my friend Mike Janda does. He has a list of 56 people that once a week he reaches out to at least one of those people on that list, just so that he can stay top of mind with those folks. It's a great thing to do, even if you're not running a web design business, just keeping people in the forefront of what you're thinking about and how you can be helpful to them. So if I were starting over, I would definitely lean into relationships. Finally, number 5, if I were starting web design over in 2025, I would learn how to integrate AI more into my business from the very beginning. Now, the question I hear all the time is, hey, is AI going to take over my job? If I invest in this, am I just going to have to switch careers in the next 10 years? And the answer is, I don't know for sure. Nobody really does. But if the history can prove anything about the future, it's that, yeah, sure, there will be some people who will run out of business because of AI. But there will also be some people who learn how to use AI to stand out amongst other web designers. And that's what I would encourage you to figure out how to do. Figure out how to use AI to your advantage while also having your key differentials, right? The key components that make you, you. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier about having your own taste, about taking clients through a process. Because yeah, AI might be able to spit out a fine looking web design, but they're not going to be able to take a client from step 1 to the launch of their website and do it in a way that is easy and fun and less stress, right? Like that's where you come in. And nobody, not even AI, can steal your story. Nobody can steal your perspective. Nobody can steal the little core competencies that you've built up along the way that might not have anything to do with web design, right? Those skills that you learn from the environment that you grew up in, or all the different jobs that you've had up until right now, right? Like that's the stuff that makes you, you. And that's what I would encourage you to lean into if you're starting a web design business. But don't stick your head in the sand, right? Also realize that AI is a tool that's going to help you do things quicker, more efficiently, and maybe a little bit better. Now, I like to use AI to help me start ideas, right? I don't ever let it do all of the work for me because it's not really good at that just yet. But it helps me get ideas going. I'll ask it for an outline of things. I'll ask it for different ideas. I'll ask it for different inspiration. And then I let that be the springboard that I do the projects that I'm working on. So learn how to integrate AI into every single step of the process that you're working on. And definitely don't forget that you've got to learn how to bring your whole self into your business. Don't let AI do everything for you, right? Like you have the secret sauce, not some code that somebody wrote in San Francisco, right? It's you that makes things stand out. But listen, no matter what, at the end of the day, you've just got to put one step forward and go for it. I hope that this has encouraged you, that it didn't intimidate you to just get started, because really the first step is one of the hardest to take. And so if you're on the fence, if you're wondering, is this worth it? Just give it a shot. I've got some other videos about how to find clients and how to get started. Check those out. Reach out to somebody who might be looking to have a website built and just go for it. I love the advice I heard from Chris Do when he said, the people who do really well almost always have this one trait. They have a bias toward actions. So many times in life, as is often the case, you never have the perfect plan. There's never the perfect time, the perfect opportunity. You just have to make do with what you have. So what are you waiting for? Get out there, go build your web design business, and let me know how it goes. Of course, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss other videos that are coming out just like this. And don't forget, if you don't quit, you win.